Like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification if you want to be notified. What is going on? Teofimo Lopez, the talking point. Bob Arum gets on three knockdown rule, hosted by Mario Lopez and Steve Kim. Bob Arum says that Teofimo Lopez, he talks to him regularly. He talks to him more than anybody else in the company. And one thing that Teofimo Lopez is very adamant about when he talks to Bob Arum is about making the biggest fights possible in boxing. Now, Teofimo Lopez obviously doing a good job on marketing himself in the sport of boxing, trying to promote himself, his brand, and become bigger. And what Teofimo Lopez is doing is he's trying to make those big fights happen. Now, Bob Arum said that Teofimo Lopez said that he wants to fight Devin Haney after Jermaine Ortiz and possibly Terrence Crawford after that. Now, if that was to come to fruition, Terrence Crawford is going to be very tough because we do know that he has one fight left for sure, and he might be retiring after that fight. He's already 36 years old. So even though he still looks young and fights young, you know, the wear and tear is possibly going to get to Terrence Crawford. And, when you made all them $1 million, what's the point of even fighting anymore? You know what I'm saying? But it is what it is. It'll be tough to get a Terrence Crawford fight for sure because of the fact that Terrence Crawford might be retiring. But a Devin Haney fight, of course, since 135 pounds 2, 3 years ago, fans wanted to see this fight and fans been calling for this fight. And I think that that type of fight, a Devin Haney Teofimo Lopez is gonna make a lot of money in the sport of boxing. It's gonna be one of those super fights. Because if we think about it, Devin Haney and Teofimo Lopez are the two fighters that actually been fighting fighters. You know, you have other names in there, you know what I'm saying, but they don't do what they haven't done, or their resumes don't reflect to what a Devin Haney or Teofimo Lopez have done in the sport of boxing. When we talk about accolades, when we talk about testing yourself inside of the ring, when we talk about actual uh resume, when we talk about every single thing, those two guys you have to commend. You have to commend. You know, uh you have examples like Ryan Garcia, um, Javante Tank Davis, two guys that are very skilled, but haven't shown that they're gonna test themselves. Even though Ryan Garcia was calling for the Javante Tank Davis fight, and that was obviously a test for himself, but a lot of fans were left with a bad taste in their mouth because of the fact that it felt like Ryan Garcia quit on himself while he was in that ring, right? He didn't want to get back up after getting taking a body shot. And soon as the bell rings, he gets right back up. You know what I'm saying? So it didn't look well. But taking the light off of those two guys, because those two guys really don't test themselves. But what Teofimo Lopez is trying to do in the sport of boxing is remarkable. This is a two-time lineal, uh, one-time undisputed. Could have been two-time. You know what I mean? Could have been two-time undisputed. And this is a dude that everything he's doing is just he wants that legacy. He wants greatness. So he doesn't want to. He's going for those big fights. Teofimo Lopez, if he could get one of those two fights, oh yeah, and win one of those two fights, oh yeah. But I think that a Devin Haney fight is a perfect fight for Teofimo Lopez. Think about it. Both fighters at 140 pounds. Fans been wanting to see that fight since 135, and both fighters have tremendous skills. And what better way for us to see that fight? I think that that's going to be the fight that might get prolonged the most, though, Because if we're thinking about how Terrence Crawford Earl Spence happened, it took time. It took a long time before that fight was came to fruition. But knowing who Teofimo and Devin Haney are, accepting all challenges, accepting big fights, and accepting um, things like that, obviously, I do understand if these guys fight very soon because they've shown nothing but that. You know, Now who will be the underdog in that type of fight? That would be my thing, right? Who's gonna be the underdog? And it'll probably be Teofimo Lopez. Um, they they usually favor the boxer, the guy that runs around the ring mainly. Vegas does, because of Floyd Mayweather, right? You couldn't put in the Floyd Mayweather as an underdog. They feel like the jab, and they probably feel like he has some advantages. But Teofimo Lopez has a lot of advantages over Devin Haney as well. Teofimo Lopez gets those two fights, and wins both of those fights. Come on now, that's a legend. That's legendary. You know, if he gets a Devin Haney fight, that's remarkable. You know what I'm saying? Because if you think about it, Teofimo Lopez fought Lomachenko, the number one pound for pound guy at the time, fought Josh Taylor, a pound for pound fighter, and that's not easy to do in the sport of boxing. It's not an easy thing to do because if that was easy, then we would have been seeing it from other fighters. But we have never seen a guy like Teofimo Lopez in the sport of boxing, in my opinion. You know, he is Teofimo Lopez. He has already stamped his name in the history. You know, there is no way that you could negate his greatness. There is nothing that nobody can say. You know, um, the fights that he's won, he's lost the fight. You could talk about that fight, but in reality, even after that loss, you know, taking on a Pedro Campa, then a Sandor Martin, and then a Josh Taylor. That's pretty tough. You know what I'm saying? That's pretty tough. The Pedro Campa obviously was just a tune-up to see where he's at 140 pounds, so you can't hold that against him. You want to gauge to where you are at. And then Devin Haney, you got to commend him for just going up to 140 pounds and beating the number two guy at 140 pounds in Regis Prograis. No tune up, no nothing. Just went straight up there and said, "I'm gonna beat you. You're only a one trick pony, and You're a one dimensional fighter. You don't know what to do. You're not gonna know what to do against me. The skill." And he showed that. Regis Prograis' skill set was just, horrendous. And for the people saying that he was the boogeyman and this and that, and they were proved wrong that night. The dude's not a boogeyman. He's a very simple man, you know, very simple man. But I think that Teofimo Lopez is on the right track, uh, for legendary status. You're talking about a 23-year-old kid. That's legendary. If he can pull something off like that, that'll be legendary. But Bob Arum said on the three knockdown rule that Teofimo Lopez is very adamant about getting those fights done after Jermaine Ortiz on February 8th. And that's going to be a fight that you definitely want to check out. Jermaine Ortiz is no scrub. That's a very tough opponent, you know, for Teofimo Lopez. Because when you talk about a guy who has a good jab, Jermaine Ortiz, who's also athletic. Jermaine Ortiz has all those attributes. He's a very skilled fighter. He fought a guy like Lomachenko years after Teofimo fought him, Lomachenko. But it was arguably that he beat Lomachenko, and that he's a very good fighter. You know, More low key type of fighter, but came out around the same time as Teofimo Lopez in him. You know what I'm saying? Very low key fighter though, but very dangerous fighter as well. He's the type of guy who's gonna keep a jab in your face. He's the type of guy that's gonna have very good movement, you know, and he's the type of guy that works. So Teofimo Lopez, Jermaine Ortiz is gonna be a really good fight. I have high expectations for that fight, and I think that both fighters are gonna go in there and give it they all. See, Teofimo Lopez fights a lot of fights where you could damn near put them at 50-50. You know what I'm saying? Even though Teofimo Lopez might be more skilled, more athletic, and bigger, well, to be honest, Jermaine Ortiz is pretty big as well. You know what I'm saying? But if we're talking about who you know, it still feels like it could be a 50-50 fight. It still feels like both fighters are pretty evenly matched. You know, and that's just a testament to Teofimo Lopez's resume and the guys that he fights. He doesn't fight scrubs very often. You know, it's very rare. You know, he's shown it. You can go down his resume and just see the type of work that he's putting in the sport of boxing at such a young age. His age is something that you have to stress because no fighter has done what Teofimo Lopez is doing. So I commend him for that, man. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Hit the bell notification if you want to be notified. Check out Three Knockdown Rule with Mario Lopez and Steve Kim. They talk good boxing there. You know, they talk good boxing, and they had that interview with Bob Arum. And we out, man. Peace.